Hi, everyone. So glad you're all here and so many super women. I'm Linda Waugh, trustee at Pasadena City College, but also on the Triple CT. And and we're going to start. I hope you enjoyed the Pioneer Women rolling PowerPoint. And we know it's not complete. And we put in as many as we could in a short time as we were getting this together. So we're looking for any contributions and any more pioneer women that we should be recognizing in our future caucus meetings. So with that, I also want to, before we start the presentation, I want to introduce my partner in crime, Dr. Daisy Gonzalez, the Deputy Chancellor, and she's going to give a PSA. Daisy?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I see our numbers keep growing. We'll engage you throughout the chat box. For now, I know that Dr. Sonia Christensen has posted our Twitter account. I will also be posting our website, and we are asking two things of you today. One, we know many of you have already joined us as members, and that would be the first piece of action. The second piece is really for you to join our directory. The greatest thing that we can do together is to support each other. That directory is meant to really catalog all of the women in our system. It is your place for you to go into and look for any support that you may need at all levels, whether you're looking for a new position in the system, you're getting ready for interviewing, or you need to contact someone that can help you build a partnership. So please join our directory. We'll post it on the chat box. Thank you, Sonia. And you would go under membership, and it is free to join our directory. So free to join the directory, but we do, of course, want you to become our members. Thank you, Linda.
Thanks, Daisy. And you'll see why it's important for you to become a member as we talk on. So next slide, please. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Dr. Pam Fisher from the Asilomar Opportunity Program, and this is the start of how women build leadership. So Pam.
Let's try again. I got it. I got it. Somebody had to do that, right? Hello, everybody. It's so great to see your pictures coming up on the screen. Talk about an amazing group of women. I'm really happy to extend my commendations to Linda and the other colleagues who created the Women's Caucus. I know that's not my role right now, but I want to say that anyway, because it absolutely thrills me, because it is so closely related to what they've asked me to spend just a moment telling you about. Many of you already know that we have a women's leadership development program in California that's been in existence, believe it or not, since 1984, which makes me feel very, very old. And as I look at the screen, I see of our alums, and there are more than 2,500 of you across California now that have participated in that. We want you to know that we're still in existence, even in this crisis time that we all have. But we specifically wanted to share the fact that because of COVID in 2021, we will be virtual. Those of you who've participated in this program know that it's very intense, very personal, very intimate, very close together for 15 hours a day, sometimes 24 hours a day. And so virtual was really the only way it could be done. But because of our concern of the difficulty of capturing that feeling, we have decided to make 2021 be available for Asilomar alums only. It's something that many women have asked us to do. So we will be offering Asilomar Phase 2 in February. Registration and other information is available on the League's website. But please know that we intend to be back in 2022. And if we aren't all able to return to semi-normal by then, we will have figured out another way to capture the intimacy that's so important to the program. So I just want to say that what we started some 36 years ago had a mission that's very similar to the Women's Caucus, namely, what can we do to support one another, and above all, reach down and bring others along in the leadership pipeline. So I'd like to take this opportunity to both thank you for those of you who've been so supportive for the last several decades, but also welcome the rest who would like to participate and in this event and encourage women to participate and become an alum themselves. And most of all, to say to the Women's Caucus, thank you for picking up the baton and running with it. Thank you.
Thanks, Pam. Next slide, please. And so Daisy and I, although this was something we started, we could not have done this without some really tremendously powerful women in our system. Next slide. So these are the women who helped put this, this caucus meeting. This is our first official caucus meeting. And you'll hear how that came to be, but there was a lot of work that was put in since the last time when we first launched sort of an exploratory with you all to see what the interest was in building a caucus. And as Pam said, you know, this, there have been a lot of starts and a lot of women who have been interested. And I know that we have some really great champions and pioneer women on this webinar. Constance Carroll, Diane Van Hook, certainly, you know, some of the leaders, great leaders for many years in our system. So this is our steering committee and our volunteers. So I want to thank them for all the work that they put in. Next slide, please. And now, having made the caucus official, we have our placeholder chairs, Dr. Erica Androjanis and Trustee Nan Gomez-Heitzberg. So Erica and Nan.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
I'm Nan, and it really seems auspicious that here in 2020, we're starting the Women's Caucus, because in 1920, the 19th Amendment was passed, but we know there was still work to be done. It wasn't until 1965, when the Voter Rights Act, that all women finally were granted the right to vote. But we know there was still work to be done. 55 years later, CCCWC was formed, but we know there's still work to be done. You've already made a commitment to students, to colleges and universities, to communities across California. And your presence today really speaks to the potential, to the power of a collective voice that can affect positive change for all women in community colleges. If I could speak to Susan B. Anthony and Fannie Lou Townsend Hamer, I think I would say, yes, there is work to be done, but we've got this. Vision of the Women's Caucus is to advocate change and policies that will advance opportunities and achieve equity for women across California community colleges. And you can see that our commitments are actionable and measurable. Erica?
It is, thank you for the opportunity to be here. And I'm especially happy as a lifelong feminist, and also because my doctoral field was a PhD in American and women's history. So this is what I studied, this is what I taught, and I'm a huge proponent of women's leadership and women's action towards developing the next group of women's leaders. And one of the things that excites me the most about this is the creation of the pipeline. And we'll have more conversation about that down the road. But when I emphasize pipeline, what I'm emphasizing here is membership. Really important to get as many folks out there, as many women out there involved in our as members, and also part of the directory. And so I want to say that for right now, we have two types of membership. We have individual membership, which is $25. And then we also have institutional memberships that cover 5 women at an institution. But I also want to say, and I hope my CEO colleagues out there will join me in welcoming any and all women on your campus to become members, and whether they're underneath that institutional membership, whether they're individual members. I know I, as the president of Pasadena City College, will cover the cost of membership, because it's really important that cost not be a barrier. It's only $25 either way, but I really can't emphasize it enough. We need to build momentum. This caucus is very important. especially because a lot of times when there's conversation out there about diversity and equity and and inclusion, there is not always and let's talk about the women. There are other focus points out there, and I want to make sure that women are central to the focus point. Now, I also I'm just going to go ahead, Nan, and talk about the bylaws, and then we'll go back to you for pay equity. So the bylaws, part of becoming a caucus is you have to fill out paperwork. First of all, you have to have an idea, and we have that. We have an idea, we have passion, we're on the way there. And then Rena reaches out from CCLC and says, but there's paperwork. And the paperwork involves an MOU between the caucus and CCLC, but also very important bylaws. And so the website that has been referenced, and I'm sure we'll make more mention of it, I can't encourage you enough to go to that website and review the bylaws. And the reason is because they actually need to be formally adopted, but you all have to have an opportunity to look at them, weigh in on them. And so I encourage you over the next 30 days to take a look at those bylaws and make comments on what you see. And after that, we will look at all of the feedback, and then we'll have a business meeting where we bring folks together to do a ratification vote. And in the bylaws, you'll see various things. You'll see how membership is defined, both voting and non-voting. Yes, this is like Seneca Falls in 1848. We will be inviting, encouraging, allowing, whatever word you want to use, our male colleagues or non-binary gender folks to join us, because what we want are people who support women, and hopefully the only people who support women aren't just women themselves, but everyone else. So you'll see membership defined in that way. What you'll also see in the bylaws is a proposal for a board structure, a 7-member board, 5 officers within that 7 members, and a co-chair structure where there is 1 CEO and there's 1 trustee as co-chairs of the organization, as well as meeting frequency and things like that. If you get all geeked out about bylaws, really, look at them, give us some great feedback. And I'm just going to end by saying this is really important. We have made so much progress. I credit the Asilomar leadership experience for the reason that I'm even here. Dr. Pam Fisher back in 2002, basically helping me understand, hey, I can do that. And there are so many women out there who just need our help, our support, our guidance, and we need each other. So that's my pitch. Become a member, become part of the directory. CEOs out there, pay for your staff, pay for your administrators and faculty, and let's do this.
Looking like a true historian, Seneca Falls, huh? Okay, so when it comes to recognizing equity, and we're talking about diversity, equity, inclusion, I'm so pleased with how frequent we're talking about it now. Think about the last league report, and it's the CEO update. And you can see that we're making progress in terms of the number of women who are CEOs in leadership roles. Even though there is an equal pay that's legislated, a law for equal pay, it isn't always the case that there is pay equity. And so that was one of the first things the steering committee looked at and put on our agenda for this first year, looking at pay equity and determining how we can advocate for that, move that forward at the local level in particular, because that's where laws get right. It's the decision of the boards. And the way the laws are set up right now, it really comes down to an individual taking this on and doing all the work themselves. So we want the playing field not to have any holes in it, and for people not to have to work quite so hard to get what is really just and fair to begin with. So I would like to acknowledge the Pioneers for Women when we talk about recognizing accomplishments, the Asilomar Conference for sure. And I do remember over the years, so many women who were the first, whether it was the first vice president, the first dean at their college, the first academic senate president. There are so many people that we stand on their shoulders in order to reach for the stars as we're doing today. So thank you all.
Thank you, Nan. Thank you, Erica. Gosh, Erica, I'm so embarrassed that your name is spelled wrong on the header. I should have read that better, but I know how to spell your name. Anyway, next slide.
My own boss, my
advisory
own
now.
boss misspelled my name.
I know.
Seriously.
I'm sorry, Erica. So as I said, although you saw the steering committee and those are the people who put together the flyer in this presentation, we also have an advisory committee, and these are women who raised their hand on the very first meeting that we had in July, for those of you who attended, and they said that they really wanted to come out and help. So I want to thank these women, and really special thanks to Rena Kasim from the League, who really helped us pull all of this together. When Nan joined, she said, I really want the caucus to be official at the anniversary of the 19th Amendment. So she and Dr. Christian really worked to move this. And I also want to thank the Bakersfield people, Shannon Musser and Maria Wright. So thank you, all of you advisory committee women who raised your hand. And if anybody else wants to raise their hand, just contact Nan because she's been pulling it all together. Okay, next slide. And now we have some great comments from the women who are in the community college, our leaders. So with that, I'd like to invite these women to give their comments on why it's important to join the caucus and what they hope for. So Pam Haynes, our newly elected president of the BOG.
So good afternoon, everyone. It's been an exciting time for women. For the last elective cycle of the national elections, how women came out and voted for a brand new vision for this country. And I think that I'm most appreciative of, as I step into this position of president of the Board of Governors, I am extremely humbled by that. To be the first African-American, either male or female, to serve in this capacity for the largest community college district in this country, representing my goodness, students, representing faculty, CEOs, just a cadre of folks. And being a voice for equity, diversity, and inclusion. It is deeply an honor. And so as I was thinking about this, women represent more than 50% of the population. And while we are feeling our oats now, we can't lose sight of in so many spaces where our voice is still, it's in namesake, and we really do have to stand in affirmation of really taking a leadership voice and taking power. And I'm going to use that word, and I got to tell you, for years I was uncomfortable with that word, power. It was I saw it as such a male word that for me had negative connotations. But over the years, I have recognized that there's different ways to use one's power. It's important to be able to have it in order to accomplish things. And even though you're not accomplishing them by yourself, it's important to have it. The other thing the reason why I think that an organization is important, this organization is important, is because we have an opportunity to share our own personal experiences, our own personal challenges, our own personal successes with others and be mentors to those who are there with us with challenges and those who are coming behind us. I can't tell you how important it has been for me to be able to pick up the phone or send an email to a sister colleague as a trustee. And many of you know who you are. It has been important to be able to find those women on the community college campuses in which I am a trustee, to be able to pick their brains. And so I think that this sisterhood is long overdue. I think that one of the things that will be important is for not only for us to find our voice, but to use our voice. The other thing that as I was thinking about the importance of this particular women's caucus is that in so many cases, we are going to be asked, we may be alone on that dais making a statement, and we're going to have to feel comfortable if we are indeed alone. It is important to use our voice for the benefit of those values that we care about. We need to do it respectfully, but we need to do it. And that's one of the lessons that I have learned over time. And when I feel alone, sometimes I'll have to call another sister friend and get the support that I need. And I think that one of the benefits of this particular caucus is that we'll have a lot of sister friends to make certain that we are not alone in the work that we're doing, because the work that we are doing is so critically important in this moment. Thank you.
Thanks, Pam. And now I'd like to call on Adrienne Gray, President of the CCCT and the League Board. Adrienne?
Hi, everyone. I'm Adrienne Gray, and I am so happy to have this caucus, and so thankful for the founders for creating it. And one of the reasons is, if you saw the morning's general session kickoff, and there was a video of the founding of the community college system. And a thank you to Dr. David Viar, who put it together. And of course, it's a wonderful accomplishment. And of course, we're glad that the community college system, the league, rather, the 30-year history of the league has accumulated, thanks to Dr. David Viar. But there's a lot of male energy in that video, right? Man after man talking about the inception of the league and the role that Dr. Viar played and the reaction of the other men. And contrast that with the video that we saw as we were signing on to this session with the wonderful women who were firsts and leaders in the community college system, many of us not knowing their names. I will want to review that and really commit those women's accomplishments to memory, because that's a history we should have, a herstory that we should have, and that should be available to everyone, not just the Women's Caucus, but to everyone in the community college system. It should become an awareness for all of our state, which women, and it's like that everywhere, right? We've seen many cases throughout history where women's roles were sort of just glossed over, or they were in support of the men in some way, and not really bringing out our individual contributions. And one of the questions Linda asked me to address is what advice I would give. And I was really glad that Pam Haynes brought up the idea, President of the Board of Governors, Pam Haynes brought up the idea of power. Embrace your power, whatever form it takes. For many years, we've been told that the way that women should express power is to try to be like men. We don't have to do that. We can be like us. We can use the power that we have inside, whether it's power to inspire others, whether it's the power to light a fire into others, whether it's technical or inspirational, use and embrace your power in whatever form. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much, Adrian. And now we have Dr. Pam Luster, who is the president of the CEO board. Pam?
Thank you so much, Linda. So many awesome Pams to follow. It's a daunting task to be Pam 3, but I take it with a great deal of humility. I'm just so excited that we're here. And when Linda and Daisy talked about pulling this together, I thought, wow, we haven't done this before. And it was just one of those moments where I thought, well, yes, it's about time. And I just have to tell you what a pleasure it is to serve with Adrian Gray right now, and having 2 women as the presidents of each of our boards as part of the league. And I think that we are keeping people on their toes, and I have a feeling that the year will simply be that way because we've united, we've come together, we set goals with both of our boards to do things together. And I think that's what women do. We build coalitions and we come together for the benefit of one another. I wanted to say I have recently come across the book Wolf Pack by Abby Wambach. And for those of you who haven't had a chance to read it, it's pretty simple. And her podcast with Brene Brown is pretty remarkable. And she has this idea about, finding our packs and finding the people that we need to be with. And she talks about creating new rules. And rule number 1 is create your own path. Rule number 2 is be grateful for what you have and demand what you deserve. Rule number 3 is lead now from wherever you are. 4, failure means you're finally in the game. 5, be for each other. 6, believe in yourself, demand the ball. 7, lead with humanity, cultivate leaders. 8, you're not alone. You've got your pack. We have our pack. So I'm thrilled to be here today and to join this pack, and hope everybody will get moving. Thank you.
Great, very inspiring, Pam. Thank you. And now we have Dr. Sonia Christian. So she has been a real mover and shaker in this caucus, and she is the president of the ACCJC. Sonia?
Well, so inspired, so excited to be here. And, Pam Haynes was talking about how we connect as women together, in our recent elections, and the new vice president, Kamala Harris. When I was looking at the social media that just exploded, and everyone was trying to find a connection to Kamala Harris, and my tweet was referring to her mother, Shamla Gopalan, from South India, and feeling a sense of connectedness because I could speak the language that her mom spoke. So I'm happy to be the chair of ACCJC. And as a previous math faculty, started looking at what is the composition of the accreditation commissions across this country. And there are 7 regional accrediting agencies. And when I started looking at the composition of commissioners, what I noticed is that 6 out of the 7 were really dominated by our male colleagues. For example, when you look at the middle states, 11 out of 28. When you look at Southern, 25 out of 65 commissioners. And when you look at the Higher Learning Commission, 4 are women out of a total of 18. So I was very pleased at that time when I moved into ACCJC and did the count again. At ACCJC is the only accreditation commission that we have 12 out of 20 commissioners who are women. So then I started looking, and then I started looking at the presidents of the commissions and the chairs as in the chair of the board, as opposed to the individual hired to lead, the CEO. And what I noticed is that we had several CEOs who were women but chairs of the boards, only 2 out of the 7 were women. And finally, when I looked at all commissioners of all of the 7 regional accreditors, out of 213, only 40%, 86 were women. So today, my thought to you is the following. About a year ago, I read the book Sapiens by Harari, and he really makes a compelling case that our reality is really socially constructed. So everything is when a group of people come together and they socially construct what is the reality. So if the individuals at the table become the storytellers, don't have our voices, what kind of a story would they be saying? What kind of values would they be representing? So it is really important that we have the voice of women to be telling the story of community colleges for our students. So if you are one of the 149 today who have not served on an evaluation team, find me on Twitter or find my email, president@Bakersfield College. We need to get you into the pipeline because it is that pipeline that creates the leaders of tomorrow. It's that preparation. And so get engaged and look around and make sure that we are represented at the table and we are writing the story for the future. And before I conclude, I do want to thank Daisy and Linda. Both of you are fabulous. Thank you for putting in your time, but both of you are so incredibly busy. But the time and care you've put in bringing us together and making this happen and creating this legacy. Back to you, Linda.
Thanks, Sonia. Well, the website and all of these Twitter accounts, all the social media would not have been possible without Sonia and for dragging Nan in on this too. So Bakersfield women have just been awesome. So thank you so much, Sonia. And next we have the awesome Dolores Davison, the president of the Academic Senate. Dolores.
Thank you, Linda. That was quite a lot to live up to. If I'm awesome compared to our first 4 women on the panel, I will gladly take that. Good afternoon, everyone. And I do want to give another congratulations out to President Pamela Haynes, not President-elect, but actually President. The gavel was handed over this afternoon. I'm delighted that there are 2 women in the leadership of the BOG. The ASCCC this year elected 4 women as our 4 officers for the first time in our history. Our executive director is also a woman, so all 5 of our officers are female, and 73% of our board is female. So pretty significant in an era where we do see women oftentimes sort of shunted aside. The question that Linda sent to us about talking about why we think this caucus is important or what is important in this, I really think is providing the support and the mentorship and allowing people to see that women can come to positions of power, very important word, and responsibility through their own way, not necessarily following the way of their male colleagues or their male role models. I happen to major in a field that tends to be more male than female. I didn't have a single female professor through my undergraduate, my master's degree, or my PhD coursework. Not a single one, not a single female faculty member. And so becoming a faculty member wasn't really something I thought was possible. And when I applied at the college I ended up being hired at, my dean was a woman, my next dean was a woman, my college president was a woman, my next college president was a woman, my vice president of instruction was a woman, and my chancellor was a woman. And all of a sudden it was possible to move up through the ranks and to become someone who did have responsibilities and a role to play and a voice to use on campus and then beyond. I scrolled through the participant list because I always am interested to see who logs in. And Several of my board members from my district are here. They are women as well. Obviously, my college president, my chancellor isn't, but she's busy, I guess. It's been a real delight to work with this group and to see the women that have risen to these positions into roles of real significance. And we don't have to act like men. We don't have to be men. Women have their own power. And I think it was Myra Cruz. She wrote something that really resonated with me in the chat that was specifically about women understanding power with and power within being our superpower. And I think that's absolutely correct. So I will encourage all of the CEOs on this call to reach out to your female faculty and invite them to participate as well. I know that the invitation went out mostly to trustees and to CEOs, but additional female faculty who ideally would be looking to move into leadership positions would be a great addition to this as well. So, and thank you, Linda and Daisy. Working with both of you has been awesome. Linda keeps pulling me into every webinar possible. Trustees are getting tired of me, but I am happy to continue to do the work and delighted to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dolores. And all of the women are awesome, but I will say that many of you know the trustees have formed DEI work groups, and almost everybody wants to hear from the Academic Senate. And Dolores has been called, I don't know how, umpteen times, along with ACRO. So thank you. And the other reason why Dolores is awesome is she has to post pictures of these wonderful Italian shoes that she brought back. So thank you, Dolores, for always being such a great partner to us. And last but not least, you know, we have to have the student voice. So this is the Vice President, Catherine Squire, Vice President of the Student Senate. Catherine.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Catherine Squire. I'm the Vice President for the Student Senate. I just really want to say I'm really inspired to see this caucus come to fruition. Just because our organization has a women's caucus as well, but it's currently inactive and has nowhere near the 100 and almost 50 participants on this Zoom call. So I'm really excited to just see this caucus come together, just because I think it's so beneficial to have a group of women that is constantly pushing each other and inspiring each other and really claiming our place in the system, not just in education, but I think in all systems and in the workforce. I think this is something I often forget about, how valuable my voice is as an individual who has a Latina heritage, just because on my board, I'm one of only 2 women on my team of 6 executive vice presidents in my organization. So we don't have too much female representation on my board either. So I think it's super important to have, you know, just a coalition that is so supportive and that continues to claim spaces and use our voices, even if it makes others in the room uncomfortable. And I just want to say, you know, one of the reasons I originally came into my role as a female student leader was because I wanted my mother to have representation. She raised me as a single mom and was the only one of 7 siblings to immigrate from a Central American country. She came here with nothing and really just built a life for us from scratch. And when I first entered community college, I knew that this was a place where she could really thrive, just because of how supportive and inclusive the environment was for me. And so I convinced her to go back and become a community college student. And so she's currently in community college trying to get an associate's in business. And so the reason why I got involved in student government was to find her support. First of all, because she really needed that academically and professionally. And there were questions as an older student that she had that I couldn't answer. And so, you know, at the time, that was my reasoning for that. But I think since then, you know, I've just been learning that my voice as a woman is so valuable in helping her, helping myself, first of all, but also helping her and helping us both really grow in our resiliency as women, and learning that our voices matter. And so, and every meeting I have, every project I find myself working on, it's not only my voice that I'm using, but it's also for her. So I'm super excited to see where this caucus goes, because I think everyone on this call is here to create spaces for themselves, but also for those coming behind us, and really create that legacy. So I think this work is really going to pave the way for so many, and focus on the work that we need for women to take those spaces. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Catherine. And you are our future. So while we're paving the way for you, we know you're going to be paving the way too, and you're going to be one of the upcoming leaders. So thank you so much. Yeah, before I go to my last slide, we do have some time. And so I would like to invite Chancellor Carroll maybe to say a few words. Many of you may know that Chancellor Carroll will be retiring, but one of our longest serving chancellors and someone who actually had helped form women's caucuses from the past. Chancellor Carroll, would you like to say a few words?
I'll be happy to. When I began with the California Community Colleges as president of a very small community college in Marin County, there were only 5 women presidents in the entire group of, I think it was then 134 CEO positions, including district and institutional. And it was a very daunting kind of situation in which to be in an organization, including CCLC, which was then CCJCA, was the name of the organization. And it was a very traditional one. The only women one saw at functions were the wives of the CEOs. It was a very different world. And so now to see that the California community colleges have almost, I think it's 45.9% women as CEOs, and much, much greater representation in the vice presidents and dean's roles is heartening beyond description for me. So I think it's wonderful that the Women's Caucus has been formed. There have been fits and starts in trying to have a more reliable women's representation within the California community colleges. But I was very, very happy to join this one, and I think it's going to do extremely well. So congratulations to the leadership and to my dear old friend Pam, not old, just for many, many years we've known each other, and for everyone who's put assigned a priority to making women's issues and women's opportunity at the top priority of our California community colleges. I can make a real speech, but I think I will stop here.
Thank you so much, Chancellor Carroll. And I would like to invite Chancellor Van Hook also to say a few words. So when we do the CEO tenure, the combined years of service from Chancellor Carroll and Chancellor Van Hook have really upped the numbers for us. And it's, such great leadership for so many years. Diane, would you like to say a few words?
Well, thank you very much. Constance was, I remember when Constance was at that small college, and I remember attending the Leaders for the 80s with Carolyn and Mildred in Scottsdale, Arizona. And I remember exactly when it was. It was the first week of February 2nd or so in 1983. And I had gotten an interview for College of the Canyons presidency, even though I was a faculty member and had never been an administrator. Heaven only knows how that happened. I was totally clueless. And I found Constance and introduced myself to her. And I said, I understand you're president of a smaller community college, and can you help me? And we sat in a restaurant there at a high table, and she helped me. And she told me in very short order what not to say, what to do, what not to do. And then she gave me the brass tacks of the fact that not very many women are in these leadership roles. And I didn't get the job, but I did get an interview, and I got the job 5 years later. So I kept trying and got the same job I had wanted. And she has always been a role model for me, and someone who truly believes that if there's a will, there's a way. I mean, let's look at the baccalaureate initiative just to know that one. And also, you become what you give yourself permission to be. I was just telling that to our Associated Student Body president. If you tell yourself you don't like this, by golly, you're not going to like it. If you tell yourself that you miss some things, but also there are some things you don't miss at all, and you're glad that we're in this kind of a different environment, you will become that during the day. You will become that. And so I appreciate having that role model for me. I was the gender equity coordinator at Santa Ana College in 1979. And let me tell you, that was a job that I wouldn't wish on anybody. I was responsible for going into all those voc tech departments, welding, tool and die, electronics, and explaining to those lovely male faculty members that unless they made brochures and purchased textbooks that showed someone other than white males, they weren't going to be able to get any VEA money. And they needed to gear it up. They needed to change it up. And they didn't like that, and they didn't like me, but they wanted the money. So I won because I challenged their bluff. And to see over the years how much progress has been made, it's probably not enough, but it's sure as heck better than where we were. And I think it takes people working together and doing so formally and informally. You know, I look at many of the, I don't know some of you on the screen here. I'm trying to decide if this is the Brady Bunch dashboard or the Hollywood Squares. I'm thinking it might be the Hollywood Squares. It's a little too big, but I think that that asking for help, someone once said to me, the best advice I can give you is this. Number one, be willing to make the following 4 statements. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I don't know, and I need help. And if you can say those 4 things, you can get to wherever it is you want to go. So I'm thrilled. We've had different variations of this kind of a caucus, maybe less formal. When Pam and Sharon Caballero and Lorraine Gaines put together the Asylum Our Leaders project for a while, for folks that had a chance to be involved in it, that was kind of a women's caucus. We didn't call it that, but it was definitely that network. And I'm just thrilled to see this happen. So thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to speak.
Absolutely. Where would we be without you? You women pioneers that have been our leaders. The women are, and you see we have a strong women's pipeline we're building, and the upcoming women like Catherine. So thank you so much. So next slide, please. Okay, so this is why it's important for you to be a member, because we have a members only meeting coming up on December 7th, and these are going to be our keynote speakers. So the Lieutenant Governor, Eleni Kounalakis, and the Senior Policy Advisor to the Governor, Dr. Lande Ohose. So, and I want to thank Dr. Gonzalez for getting these great speakers for us. So definitely build the pipeline with us. You see it's been in the chat, and we have the hyperlinks on the flyer that you got. Become a member. So you can go right into the league website to become a member and save the date for December 7th. So we can close, but I'd like to invite any of our steering committee group, if you want to say a few words. Anyone want to go on? Okay, well, with that, I want to thank you all for coming. A recording of this will be sent out to everyone, and great chats that came in. So thank you, all of you, for participating, and we'll send a copy of those chats out to everyone. Thank you all, and we hope to see you all in our membership list for the Women's Caucus.